Big Story. I'm Gretchen Ho.
I'm Rosa.
And I'm Shawn Yao.
Tonight's big stories. Vice President Sara Duterte gets a third impeachment complaint, this time from a group that believes the VP's ouster is now a moral obligation.
The Justice Department will assess if there is enough proof to criminally charge main players in the Duterte drug war. And among them is Senator Bato de la Rosa, who joins us later in the program.
And President Marcos says that clemency is still a remote possibility for convicted drug trafficker Mary Jane Veloso.
The third impeachment complaint against Vice President Sara Duterte has been filed at the lower house this morning, again on grounds of her alleged misuse of confidential funds.
The complainant this time around was represented by the religious sector, non-government organizations or NGOs, and lawyers.
But the question is, will this prosper now that Congress is already in recess? Priests from the Diocese of Novaliches, Order of Carmelites, and the Congregation of Mission, as well as non-government organizations and lawyers, filed a said complaint in Congress. This was immediately endorsed by Assistant Minority Leader and Camarines Sur Congressman Gabriel Bordado Jr. and Deputy Minority Leader Lex Anthony Criscolada. Like the first two impeachment complaints, the main grounds are also culpable violation of the Constitution and betrayal of public trust, still due to the alleged anomalous spending of confidential funds of the agencies under VP Sara. But this time, the complainants argued that ousting the vice president has become a moral obligation.
These priests, these lawyers believe that with what transpired and with what the public saw during the committee hearings, it's no longer just the legal and constitutional obligation of the members of the House of Representatives to impeach and for the Senate to remove from office the sitting Vice President of the Republic of the Philippines. It has now become their moral obligation to do so.
We believe VP Sara committed something illegal and something immoral against the Filipino people. For us, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness.
Let's discuss this development with Attorney Amando Ligutan, representative of the complainants. Welcome to the big story, Attorney.
Good evening, Gretchen, Pauline, and Shawn. It's nice to be here. Good evening to everybody.
Attorney, it's been weeks since we've heard that there was a third impeachment complaint coming, and we also do know that we are on a tight timeline. Why did the impeachment complaint get filed only now?
All right, so as to the timing, we only had 1 week to prepare the impeachment complaints. The impeachment complaints is a result of the committee hearings conducted in the House of Representatives. So as to the timing, we just met each other a few days ago. We did it online. And so we had like a tight schedule. So as to the timing, that's the reason why we only met a few days ago. We are a group of individuals from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, bound by the same cause. We found something. When we heard the committee hearings, we decided that there is sufficient ground. There are rather sufficient grounds for the impeachments of the sitting vice president of the republic. So as to why it was only now, there's no deadline for that. There's no deadline for that.
Agree. So a lot of people though are saying that maybe if there were only two, then they could have consolidated earlier and therefore it would be better timing-wise, no? But Attorney, what was the rationale behind filing this impeachment? Were you not satisfied with the grounds that were stated in the previous two cases that were filed? Can you tell us the rationale and why get together? How did you guys get together in order to, yeah.
All right. So the genius of the Constitution is that it provides and it allows any individual to initiate an impeachment proceedings in the House of Representatives. So as to why there is this third group, that is the gist of democracy. So any any Filipino citizen could file a verified complaint for impeachments against any of those impeachable officers. So as to why this group came into being, honestly, we didn't know each other. All right. So we didn't know each other, but it started with a conversation. Somebody called me up. Of course, I'm not at liberty to tell the public who called me up. But this individual said that there's this group of priests wanting to file an impeachment complaint. All right. So when I received the call, we created a Viber group, and the discussion started there. All right. And people, although we are strangers to each other, but if there's a common thread among us, if there's a commonality between and among us, so it's easy to blend. So it's easy to blend. So we did that. We did that in record time. So we were able to come up with, we believe, a credible impeachment complaints against the vice president. It is the common cause, a cause common among us, that made it possible.
Just one follow-up quickly. I know you're not at liberty to tell us who called you initially to band you all together, but can you at least give us an idea whether this is a private citizen or a lawmaker?
A priest.
Also a priest.
A priest, yes.
Ibig sabihin, hindi po kayo yung pangatlong impeachment complaint na pinag-uusapan matagal na kung 1 week ago lang po kayo nag-usap-usap?
As to that question, I cannot answer that. So as to the speculation that there is this third group, I cannot answer that. But I've heard that this will not end with the third impeachment complaint.
Meron pa.
This will not end. You know the reason for that is because the committee hearings conducted by the House of Representatives, they were public, right? Everybody got to see, everybody got to hear, everybody got to read the documents flashed on TV, right?
But if I'm not,
yes, continue, please.
but if I'm not mistaken, the reports are currently held by the Secretary General. Parang hindi pa niya tinatransmit, ano? So kumbaga hindi pa umaandar yung buong proseso. So baka mas lalong maapektuhan yung practicality, yung realistic timelines of being able to make that happen before the midterm elections and before the campaign start.
So as to the timing, Gretchen, as to whether it's still practicable for Congress to do that, unfortunately, that is beyond me to speculate. But if we were to look at what the Constitution provides, the guidelines, the deadlines, dates, we are still very much on time, Gretchen.
Okay. Well, gets ko naman yung sinasabi nyo na it's not your problem, kumbaga, that's Congress's problem. Basta on your part, nag-file na kayo. But I think this is, and I also want to add to just what Gretchen was saying, because supposedly nga, Secretary General Regina Veloso said that some House lawmakers have called him now before, this was of course before today, and said na meron pang isa, but gusto pa namin siyang i-endorse, but we're still going to study it. There were some things like that. So, like what you're saying is,
As to whether or not that's yung isa, so I cannot speculate on that.
Okay. But you did hear na there might be, kumbaga, a fourth or possible fifth.
I was busy my livelihood as a lawyer. I didn't hear that, to be honest.
Okay.
Okay, Attorney, well, just like the first two impeachment complaints, the main grounds that you cited were also culpable violation of the Constitution and betrayal of public trust. Did you also heavily rely on the hearings of the House committees?
Yes, the impeachment complaint that we drafted is lifted or it relies heavily on the pieces of evidence, on the facts and or information that became public during the committee hearings. When we were watching these committee hearings, we didn't have in mind the filing of the impeachment complaints. But as we went along watching these hearings, at a certain point, you ask yourself, isn't this too much? Isn't it too much for the office of the vice president and the vice president herself to tell the public that she has nothing to do with these fictitious individuals receiving millions of pesos of public funds. Isn't that too much?
So you're
It
saying,
was.
of course, attorney, you are an attorney, so I'm guessing napag-aralan nyo na rin to. Are you confident that that's, by virtue of just everything that went on publicly in the hearings in the House, sapat na yon para ma-impeach ang Vice President?
Okay. So, yes, I have to agree with that. So, because, impeachment is a political process. It is for the House of Representatives to determine for themselves whether there is sufficient basis to transmit the articles of impeachment to the Senate. These hearings, they are public hearings. They are not hearings before a tribunal or before a court. But remember, these hearings, the witnesses, the testimonies of these witnesses are done under oath. All right? So, and when we say under oath, we mean that these witnesses, when they testified before the hearings, what they were saying should be actually the truth. All right. So, after watching these hearings, we found out that the office of the vice president dispersed like 125 million pesos in record 11 days. And after that, COA had to issue notices of suspension and notices of disallowances to the office of the vice president because COA found out that there was insufficient accounting of public funds given to the office of the vice president. And what was more shocking was there were individuals who used fictitious names, and there were individuals, the same names but different signatures. And there were activities that, according to the office of the vice president, they did, but in fact, according to the hearings, these activities didn't happen. Surveillance activities, right, didn't happen. The office of the vice president was not able to report properly these activities, right? Also, it was only when COA flagged these disbursements that the office of the vice president came up with what they say acknowledgement receipts. They came up with acknowledgement receipts dated December 2023 for activities that happened a year before. How could that be possible? How could that be possible? It came to a point that we, the members of this third impeachment team, if you may, that I think the office of the president, the vice president herself, is not telling the truth.
Attorney, you mentioned a lot about the confidential fund use. So will your impeachment complaint center on that particularly, and what would be the difference of your impeachment complaint from the first two?
All right. So I think the difference would be number one, the grounds that we are citing, a culpable violation of the Constitution. But we go deeper. We also argue, and we can prove it, that in fact the vice president committed plunder. The vice president committed malversation of public funds. The vice president committed technical malversation of public funds. The vice president committed bribery, and all of these are grounds for her impeachment as a sitting vice president of the Republic.
I like how you guys put the word or the term moral obligation, that it has become a moral obligation already. And seeing that this has, a lot of the filers are also from the religious sectors, and possibly, the idea even came from priests or a group of priests. How do you guys plan to, kumbaga, ibang angulo ito, no? This is not politicking, this is the religious sector, yeah. What is the sentiment of the religious sector and everything that is happening today?
Yeah, these priests, they're so busy with their daily schedules, and it's now Simbang season, But, they had to make time for this. They had to make time for this. That's why when we were in the process of crafting the main complaint, it dawned upon me as the lead counsel that this is just no longer a battle for what's legal and what's not. This is no longer a battle of what is constitutional or what's not. It has become a battle of what is right and what is wrong, what is immoral and what is moral. That's why we decided to craft it that way. That the obligation now of the House of Representatives to impeach the sitting vice presidents and for the Senate to remove from office Vice President Duterte is just no longer their, number one, constitutional or legal obligation. It has become their moral obligation to do so.
And attorney, if for example, nakakulungan ng oras, hindi nakapag-signature campaign, if this fails, right? What is the plan of your group? I'm sure you've discussed it given that you already for sure know nabitin kayo sa oras.
Yeah, so as to what we can do and what we will do after if this fails, to be honest, we're not thinking about that yet. We are not thinking about that yet. We are just thinking of following this through. And I think based on the sentiments on the ground, based on what we saw on TV or what we saw on social media, I think the House of Representative members will ultimately decide to impeach the vice president. It is just too much. The pieces of evidence are just so glaring. They're just so glaring that it will take so much for a sitting member of the House of Representatives to ignore this and to ignore the plea of the people. The people now are clamoring for accountability, right? So I think we are confident with the fact that the House of Representatives will decide on the matter based on conscience, right?
Well, the voice of the civil society is loud and clear with 3 impeachment complaints now. Thank you so much for joining us tonight and giving us the depth of that. That was Attorney Amando Ligutan, representative of the filers of the 3rd impeachment complaint against Vice President Sara Duterte.
Up next, we'll be speaking with Senator Ronald Dela Rosa about the House Quad Committee's recommendation to file criminal charges against him, Senator Bongo, and former President Rodrigo Duterte. Keep it here on The Big Story.
Welcome back. You're still watching The Big Story here on One News.
The Marcos administration is leaving it up to the Justice Department to gauge whether or not there is sufficient ground to charge Rodrigo Duterte. The House Quad Committee earlier recommended criminal raps against the former president and several of his most trusted men for their role in the bloody drug war. Amy Atienza with the story.
At this point, the ball is now in the court of the Department of Justice, according to President Marcos. That's whether or not the DOJ finds merit in the recommendation of the Quad Committee to charge key personalities in the drug war with crimes against humanity. These are former President Rodrigo Duterte, his former aide now Senator Bongo, and his first police chief turned lawmaker Bato de la Rosa. The House mega panel is also suggesting charges against 4 police officers, 2 of whom were former PNP chiefs.
The DOJ will look at it and see if there are it is time to file cases, what cases to file, how to produce the evidence that we will need to actually build the case up. So titignan pa yan.
The findings of the Quadcom no longer surprised Senator Bato.
They're removing heaven and earth talaga to make life difficult for us. Yun naman talaga yung kanilang pakay. Talagang i-demolish ang Duterte at kanyang mga kaalyado. So, sige lang, harapin natin yan pag i-file na ng DOJ yung kaso na yan. Harapin natin yan.
The senator believes one narrative is playing out as planned, which is to undermine his and Go's re-election bid, and in turn, remove all obstacles in the campaign to remove Vice President Sara Duterte from office.
Kapag kami dalawa ni Senator Bongo ay hindi mananalo next year dahil na-demolish kami, ang gusto ngayon, wala nang harang dito sa Senado sa impeachment nila na gagawin kay VP Sara. So yun na, tuloy-tuloy na sila. Kanila ng mundo.
For his part, Senator Go is questioning Quadcom's earlier vow to spare the innocent from the drug war probe. The legislator believes allegations made against him during the House public hearings were all hearsay and lacked evidence. Like De La Rosa, Go is leaving his fate up to the courts. Meantime, Digong's son and Davao Congressman Paulo Duterte had something to say to his colleagues at the lower chamber. He said if the House were truly serious in addressing the proliferation of drugs, they should have started investigating those in the PDEA watch list during the Duterte administration. In that list, Pulong claimed were lawmakers and their family members. The younger Duterte vowed to clear his family's name eventually. For now, the DOJ will be assessing the Quadcom's recommendation. Subpoenas are expected to be issued even to the Duterte patriarch as needed. Note that the DOJ is already investigating former President Digong over his statement asking the military to correct the so-called fractured government.
Consolidate po natin yan kasama nung bagong committee report ng Quadcom. So pag pinagsama-sama po natin yan, magkakaroon tayo ng evaluation at we will have a follow-up investigation and additional subpoenas to determine whether this crime of IHL, International Humanitarian Law, or crimes against humanity was really committed.
Mobile journalist Amy Atienza, we are One News.
Again, one of those who could face the charge of crimes against humanity is Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa, and he is here with us tonight, joining us on The Big Story. Good evening, Senator.
Hello, good evening sa inyo, girls, at ating mga taga-subaybay. Good morning. Good evening.
Good evening. Gabi na po, oo. Senator Bato,
Yes.
ito nga po, matagal niyo po sinasabi na walang jurisdiksyon ang ICC sa Pilipinas, pero mukhang tinitignan na ngayon na recommendation po ng committee ay patawan po kayo ng charges. Citing RA 9851, Crimes Against Humanity. Ano po masasabi niyo dito kapag dito na sa Pilipinas, sa mga korte po natin na mapafile yung mga kaso na yan?
Walang problema, Gretchen. Go ahead. We will face that case kung talagang after ng evaluation ng DOJ sa committee report na isa-submit nila at I'm sure they will conduct their own investigation. Tingnan natin kung mag-prosper yung kaso, then harapin natin sa korte yan pag yan ay na-file na sa korte.
Pero kung babasahin niyo po ang RA 9851, the Philippine courts or Philippine authorities may dispense if there is another court or an international tribunal that is already conducting an investigation. Section 17 po yan, which says kapag kunwari may ibang investigasyon katulad nung sa ICC, pwede na lang nilang ipasa sa kanila yung kaso o yung jurisdiction dito sa kaso. Yung po ba ay nakikita ninyong pag-recognize din doon sa investigation? At handa po ba kayo kung sakaling yan po ang piliin ng Philippine government?
Yeah, the operative word there is may dispense, di ba? So it's all up to the Philippine government kung talagang ito-turn over nila yung kaso sa ICC. So kung ito-turn over naman nila sa ICC, then we will seek judicial relief from the Supreme Court. Kung talaga bang paano i-determine ng Supreme Court yung jurisdiction ng ICC dito sa ating bansa.
Oh, pero baka sakali, no, naalala ko lang before, leading up to this, Senator Bato, na minsan sinasabi nyo nga, no, same with former President Rodrigo Duterte, na haharapin nyo yung kaso sa tamang forum dito sa Pilipinas. So, I'm guessing, di ka naman masyadong nagulat. Or nagulat po ba kayo nung biglang nag-announce sa plenaryo ng House kahapon na, ayun nga, kasama kayo dun sa kakasuhan ng Crimes Against Humanity?
Expected na namin yan. Alam naman namin yun right from the start. So ano talaga ang hidden motive ng Quadcom na yan. Alam naman natin kung bakit yan binuo yung Quadcom. Ay alam na natin yan. So they will do everything. They will move heaven and earth to crucify us. Alam na natin yan.
Nevertheless, Senator Bato, have you started putting together a legal team and all of those things that you have to do usually before facing the courts? Or hindi nyo muna ginagalawan hanggang magkaroon muna ng kaso?
Hintayin na lang natin kung magkakaroon na ng kaso, saka na tayo gumalaw. Alam naman natin yan na, alam mo, if you know where you stand and if you know the truth, then you don't have to panic, you don't have to worry. Chill lang, chill.
Senator, nakausap niyo na po ba si former President Rodrigo Duterte, tungkol po dito?
Hindi pa kami nakapag-usap. Siguro pag-uwi ko ngayon sa Davao, baka mag-uusap kami, pero hindi pa kami nakapag-usap tungkol dyan. Expected na namin naman talaga yan. Wala na tayong ibang inaasahan dyan sa Quadcom yan. They are hell-bent to crucify us. So, alam na namin yan na mangyayari talaga yan.
Yung nga po, kung political persecution po yung nangyayari, sabi nga po ni Congressman Romeo Acop, i-rebut nyo po yung kanilang report with proof, not theatrics, with evidence.
Oo, tingnan natin yung evidence nila. Tingnan natin. Pag-file na sa kaso, tingnan natin kung hanggang saan naabot yung ebidensya nila na puro hearsay. Tingnan lang natin.
Sige, medyo maiba lang tayo ng konti, no, Senator Bato. Earlier today, I'm sure you got word, no, na yung third impeachment complaint nga versus VP Sara Duterte na ikasa na, na-file na sa Kamara. Kayo ba sa Senado ay naghahanda na, or what is the kumbaga general mood or sentiment of the Senate with regard to impeachment? Are you waiting? Are you thinking na considering pa na may enough time, or na-write off nyo na ba? Pinaghahandaan ba ito?
Standing by lang kami because that is our constitutional duty, no, to act as impeachment court. Kapag pinili talaga na yan na aakyat dito sa amin, may impeach nila doon sa lower house si VP Sara at aakyat sa amin para sa trial, then we have to do our job.
Speaking of VP Sara, yun nga po yung issue ng kanyang confidential funds, yung paggamit. Kayo po ay pamilyar doon, ano? Dahil meron po maraming confidential funds noon sa Davao City. Sabi po niya, ginamit niya yung confidential funds to find out where to put her office's projects for poverty alleviation. Yun po ba ay normal na paggamit ng confidential funds? Hindi po ba dapat sa intelligence operations po ito with regard to security, hindi po para malaman kung saan ilalagay ang iyong proyekto? Ano po masasabi niyo po doon?
Kaya nga confidential funds, di ba? Confidential funds, so for confidential purposes, dapat hindi na ninyo alamin. Dahil confidential nga. Kaya mayroon naman tayong kuha, let kuha do their job. Kung sabihin ng kuha na illegal yung pag-disburse ng confidential fund, then so be it. Harapin natin yung kaso. Harapin niya yung kaso kung magtaya lang kaso ang kuha. Hindi dapat yung Quadcom ang maggawa-gawa ng kaso laban sa kanya. Dahil alam naman natin na puro pamulitika lang yan. If Quadcom really is indeed serious on investigating confidential funds, then they should start with the Office of the President na siya ang may pinakamalaking confidential funds sa buong Pilipinas. Doon sila mag-start. Kung gusto talaga nilang hanapan ng paraan na maganda yung pagkagamit ng confidential funds, start with the Office of the President.
Kahit po
lahat
may
ng ahensya.
Oo, kahit po confidential itong confidential funds, kahit yan po ay may patakaran kung paano gagamitin at saan lamang. Do you see that the usage of the Vice President is in line with those guidelines na ginamit po niya parang pang-ocular, no? Para malaman kung dito ba namin ilalagay itong proyekto na to at dito.
As I have said, let COA investigate para malaman natin lahat. Kasi for all we know, may mga supporting documents naman yan, may mga records din naman yan na ipapakita na sa kuha. So, paimbestigahan natin yung kuha, hindi yung puro tayo speculate para tayong Quadcom nito.
Ito na lang, Senator Bato, no? Change topic na lang tayo. Of course, another thing na everyone, no, nagkakagulo ngayon, pinagkakaguluhan ang 2025 budget after what happened sa BICAM. Pakwento na lang po, Sen, no, kung ano po, may nabalitaan ba kayo about what was going on in the BICAM? Nagulat din ba kayo? And your thoughts in general about the 2025 budget na ang daming ang nagtatawag na the most corrupt in Philippine history?
Kaya nga, no, during the opening of the Bicameral Conference Committee, no, during the opening session, nag-manifest ako na sana, before signing the committee report, give us ample time to read the report and to read the contents of the GAB. Please let us scrutinize it properly before we sign the committee report, because meron na kaming study experience last year kung saan nakapirma kami sa BICAM report na hindi namin alam na may sinaksak pala sila na yung akap. So, nagbuka kaming tanga. Hindi namin alam na mayroon pala sila sinaksak. So, that is why, nag-manifest ako sa floor na dapat, bago tayo magpirma, para hindi kami magbukang tanga, let us give us ample time to scrutinize the budget.
And in your opinion, Sen,
nangyari?
natupad ba yun? Were you given ample time? Do you feel that the rest of the senators got ample time to review it, yung mga hindi kasama sa BICAM?
No, that is why I did not sign the BICAM report and I did not vote for that bill, GAB, General Appropriations Bill. Kaya hindi ako bumoto diyan, hindi ako nag-sign ng committee report dahil hindi na-satisfy yung aking request. In fact, yung opening ng session, opening ng BICAM hearing, ay binigyan ako ng assurance na pagbigyan ako na basahin yung laman ng final report. Pero hindi man ako binagbigyan, so hindi ako nagpirma. Dahil may lisos lang na nga ako last year. Sinaksak na yung akap na napakalaki-laki na nakinabang yung House of Representatives lang. Sila lang ang gumamit ng akap na yan. So halatang pamulitika, nahabol ng pundo na yan. Puro pamulitika para magkakautang loob yung taong bayan sa kanila na binibigyan nila ng pundo. So hindi na ako pumirma.
Pero hindi po ba kayo din sa Senado ay magkakaroon daw po ng 5 billion ng akap na ito? 21 billion will go to the Congress, 5 billion daw po sa inyo sa susunod na GAA.
So what? Kung mayroong 5 billion dyan, magagamit ba namin yan? Magagamit ko ba yan? Sigurado ka bang mayroong hindi ko kaya mag-elaborate basta magamit kaya, makabil kaya kami yan? Never.
Oo, pero kung hindi naman po akap, AX naman po ang meron po ninyo sa Senado, di po ba?
Oh, mayroong AX, pero ang tanong dyan kung kami ni Senator Bongo, kami ni Senator ay may nakakagamit ba? Pinagbawalan naman ang DSWD na bigyan kami ng AX. So wala rin mangyari. Walang mangyari dyan.
Oo, pero AX po ay nagsimula sa panahon ni Pangulong Duterte. I believe this is one of the spearheaded things by Senator Bongo.
Yes, as I have said, no, I am not against AX. I'm not against ayuda kung nakakatulong yan sa taong bayan. Pero pagdating sa prioritization ng pundo ng gobyerno na very much meager yung financial resources ng gobyerno, dapat ang priority natin ay yung nakasaad sa Constitution kung saan ang priority is education. Kung pagdating naman sa health, dapat yung PhilHealth, dahil may batas yan talaga, yung PhilHealth na budgetan niya ng gobyerno. Pero bakit siniguro ng ating mga kasamahan yung AKAP at saka yung AX? Bakit? Tapos ang PhilHealth zero. Kasi yung PhilHealth, hindi magkakautang ng loob yung mga Pilipino na mag-avail niyan, hindi magpapasalamat sa mga politiko. Pero pag dito sa AKAP at saka sa AX, magpapasalamat sila sa mga politiko na nagbigay. So gamit na gamit yan for next year's election. Gamit na gamit yung mga ayuda funds na yan for next year's election. So halata na pinapriority na yung pamulitika kaysa yung proper na pag-allocate ng funding na ayon sa Constitution at marami ang makikinabang. Hindi yung kukunting politiko lamang ang makikinabang.
Pero hindi po ba kayo rin ay nakagamit nitong AX?
Nakagamit ako noon. Kaya nga alam ko. I am not questioning AX nga. Ang sa akin lang, siyempre, I am questioning the prioritization. Kaya nga alam ko na magkakautang na loob yung mga tao na yan. Dahil nakagamit ako niya noon Panahon pa ni President Duterte, meron na yan Pero yun nga, kung ang gagawin mo is zero mo yung PhilHealth, tapos ang priority mo yung AKAP at saka AX, halata masyado na puro pamulitika ang iniisip natin.
Okay, I'm curious lang, no?
Sa kampanya yan.
Sen Bato, curious lang ako, pwede bang tanggihan yun? Like, ayoko ng AKAP, ayoko ng allocation. Pwede bang tanggihan yung... Alam ko wala namang actual pera, no, nag-change hands. Pero can you turn down the allocation? Like, ayoko niyan, bigay nyo na lang sa iba or i-realign nyo na lang sa whatever.
Sinong mag-turn down kami? Mga senador?
Is it possible?
Sino?
Oo, yung mga senador po. At saka...
Depende sa iyo yan. Kung maghingi ka ng meron ka maibigay na AX o AKAP, yun, kung maghingi ka. Pero in our case, kahit na maghingi kami, hindi naman kami binibigyan dahil may instruction man ang Malacanang sa DSWD na hindi na kami bigyan, so wala rin mangyari sa amin.
Opo.
So you mean to tell me, Senator Bato, wala kayong allotment ngayon under this administration?
Well, meron, pero pinestop ng Malacanang. Yung para sa akin, para kay Senator Bongo at kay Senator Atty. Marcos. So wala kaming magagamit yan na AX.
Actually, nakikita po natin kay Senator Amy meron na may mga bali-balita po kami naririnig. Pero ito na lang po, si House Speaker Martin Romualdez has said, at pinagtanggol niya yung AKAP, that this is not just giving out, but this is actually handing out justice. At sinabi rin po niya na may resibo naman. Ay, kumpara dun sa, syempre, hindi niya pinatungkulan ng diretso, pero we all know what he's talking about.
Sige lang, let the people decide kung anong tingin ng taong bayan patungkol dyan. Talagang pinapriority nila yung ayuda kung saan magkakautang na loob ang tao sa isang politiko. Kaysa doon sa PhilHealth, wala kang thank you doon sa PhilHealth. Hindi ka magpapasalamat dahil nasa batas yan na automatic makatanggap yung Pilipino na nangangailangan ng medical assistance to PhilHealth, magagamit nila. Pero dito sa AKAP-AX, magpapasalamat talaga ang taong bayan dyan sa politiko na nagpapa-release ng pundo na yan. So gamit sa eleksyon yan, next year's election.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Maraming salamat. That was Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa weighing in on the budget as well as the report of the Quad Committee.
Taking a quick break, but after that, Mary Jane Veloso may just have to wait a bit longer for her appeal for clemency. As President Marcos Jr. himself said, this still needs to undergo review. That and more big stories of the day when we return. Keep it here.
Welcome back. You're still watching the big story here on One News. Though he is definitely no longer signing the proposed national budget for 2025 tomorrow, President Bongbong Marcos is keen to seal the deal before the year ends. However, sending it back for the Congress to fine-tune is no longer an option for the president. Maricel Halili with a report.
We are starting to see some project proposals that do not have the appropriate program of work, walang appropriate na documentation, hindi maliwanag kung saan pupunta ang pera. Kaya't yun ang liliwanagin natin.
President Bongbong Marcos gave this response to questions about the proposed 2025 national budget that he's supposed to sign tomorrow. Yesterday, PBBM met with his economic team to scrutinize the budget. For the president, sending the budget back to Congress is no longer an option.
Wala sa procedure yan. There is no procedure to return it to the BICAM. It's finished already in the House. It's finished already it's finished in Congress. Tapos na. So it's up to us now to look at the items and to see what are appropriate.
The president said he may well exercise his right to veto questionable allocations in the budget or insertions that are not in the original GAA. But for the president's sister, Senator Amy Marcos, it will be more complicated if PBBM vetoes the budget.
This is talaga naman a very, very bad budget. Talagang ito ay labag sa konstitusyon, labag sa ilang batas, at labag sa damdamin at pangangailangan ng tao. So, kinakailangan at humihingi nga ako na i-recommit na lamang sa BICAM. Nais ko lang ipaliwanag na pwedeng ibalik sa BICAM. Kung maalala ninyo yung Anti-Agricultural Economic Sabotage Act na approved on third reading 11 December 2023. Katagal-tagal. Tapos, napirmahan lang 30 September 2024. Pabalik-balik yan, nakailang BICAM yan.
Meanwhile, House Speaker Martin Romualdez defended the inclusion of ACAP in the proposed budget.
Ayuda is not charity, it is justice. Sa mga kontra sa ayuda, handang ipakita ng administrasyong ito kung saan napunta ang bawat sentimong inilaan para rito. Ang mga may hawak ng pondo, ang mga departamento tulad ng DSWD, DOLE at DOH, sila ang nagpapatakbo ng mga programa, hindi ang Kongreso.
He didn't name names, but Romualdez has this to say for critics of ACAP.
Lahat ng programa ito may totoong benepisyaryo, may totoong resibo. Walang notice of disallowance mula sa Commission on Audit.
For News 5, I'm Maricel Halili. We are One News.
Okay, moving on now to another topic. The call for clemency for Mary Jane Veloso are growing louder. However, President Bongbong Marcos says that clemency is still far off and should best be reviewed by legal experts. According to the Justice Department, there is a process to be followed, emphasizing that the matter must undergo thorough evaluation by the Board of Pardons and Parole. Meanwhile, the DOJ explained that they will explore whether Veloso qualifies for the GCTA or Good Conduct Time Allowance to secure her release. Based on the revised implementing rules and regulations of the GCTA law, all persons deprived of liberty, even those who committed heinous crimes, may be eligible for release.
And in other news, 12 Chinese vessels have been spotted by the Philippine Coast Guard and BFAR in the vicinity of Bajo de Masinloc during a routine maritime patrol. Apart from the Chinese Coast Guard vessels, the BFAR patrol aircraft identified Chinese maritime militia vessels and People's Liberation Army Navy ship was reported approximately 50 nautical miles off the coast of Zambales. The PCG has not confirmed any reports of harassment involving our fishermen and these vessels. According to PCG spokesperson for the West Philippine Sea, J. Tariela, they were there to distribute food packs and groceries for 40 fishermen aboard BRP Teresa Magbanua and BRP Cabra.
Before we say goodbye and sign off for tonight, here is our big picture of the day, just in time for your aguinaldos or your angpaos this Christmas. The country's complete polymer banknote series. Joining the 1,000 peso bill, the BSP has unveiled the 500, 100, and 50 peso bills. The new polymer notes now feature Philippine flora and fauna, replacing the ones featuring famous Filipinos. The 1,000 peso bill features a Philippine eagle, symbolizing strength and freedom. The 500 bill has the Visayan spot in the ear that symbolizes clarity and sharpness. And the 100 peso bill showcases the Palawan peacock, or Palawan peacock pheasant, to mirror the Filipinos' grace in challenging times. And the 50 peso bill features the Visayan leopard cat, symbolizing independence and agility.
Iba na, no? Wala na yung mga mukha-mukha.
Oo nga, eh.
Animals na, tsaka ano.
And walang 20 pesos.
Wala rin 200. Pero actually, yung 20 kasi naging coin siya, di ba? Na ginawa pang ring, pero that's another story. Pero wala na yung 200.
Sayang, favorite ko pa naman yung 200.
Ako din.
Although yung, it's difficult kasi yung 1,000 pag wini-withdraw mo, tapos nababasa ng ulan. Nagdidikit-dikit siya. Medyo mahirap siyang
yung polymer.
gawinin. Oo.
Marami ka pala 1,000. Saan mo ba dinala yung 1,000 mo? Bakit siya nabasa ng ulan?
Sweldo. Pang bonus. Alam mo na, 13th month.
Pero at least pag pinatuyo mo, manipis pa rin siya. Hindi siya yung parang yung papel na, di ba, nagiging
Sa bagay,
fluffy.
may point ka naman.
Okay, wala na raw tayong oras, so that's it for... Ay, ko pala yung pawi. That's it for the show tonight. Just to remind everyone, okay, Pawi, sa'yo yung bad news.
Oh, wow!
Is it only just 6 days left before Christmas? All right, there we go. 6 days left. We are one news all sides all the time.
Napakabilis ng oras, ano? 6 days na lang, di natin napapansin dito sa balita, ano? Pero sa traffic, oo. Stay tuned because coming up next is Play-by-Play with Andre Felix and Cheska Litton Calao.
Saya talaga dyan, no? I was telling Cheska, check ko na bumanter. Sabi, bakit? Wala na ako masabi. Sabi ko, pero nung pinag-uusapan nila pera,
Bigla ang daming
sabi ko si
may masasabi pala ako.
May masasabi pala ako si Gretchen. Kasi she knows yung 1,000 peso bill. Daming.
Expert.
Oh.
Pinabasa lang sa ulan, nagdikit-dikit.
Yes.
Ang sweldo nga.
Pa-Christmas nyo, ha? Alam mo na, Ate Gretch, ha? Thank you, Ate Gretch. Tito Shawn, Boss Pawi, hi, miss you.